Okay. Okay, Namaste Masters. This is Saroja Gullapalli. As I mentioned earlier, it gives me really great pleasure to catch up with you all or to meet you again on this platform of self-empowerment. It has really indeed been some time, though we are meeting every week on Sitayana platform. Um, Almost 6 days a week I'm doing my show. But I know, like many of you had mentioned, that madam, we are missing your workshops. I was also missing these workshops. This gives me a special connection with you all. And I always feel this weekend workshops that we have been doing for last 2 or 3 years now really keeps me grounded. I don't know about you all, but honestly, friends, so as the topic states, today, before we go into the topic or its details, can I request you all to just do 5 minutes meditation? So today the meditation is not going for too long because we have a topic today, and I will need time for this topic. Um, so my dear friends, this workshop at this stage, I'm thinking 7 to 9 or 2 hours, whichever time zone you're in, we're thinking for 2 hours. So because we have a pretty loaded topic, can we start with meditation just for 5 minutes so that we can all focus, especially people from my time zone who have just woken up. Will be nice for us to get into some high energies connecting to you masters. So may I request you all to cross your feet, lock your fingers and place them in your lap, and gently close your eyes and be with your breath, my dear masters. Be with your breath. With the help of your breath, try to go you within yourself a bit more deeper, one step deeper. Be with your inner stillness, masters. Be with your inner silence. I purposely not put any music on because I just want you to feel the inner silence. This inner silence within you is called your sacred space. Every one of us has a sacred space within us. So please connect to your sacred space. This sacred space is also called the land of Buddha. And it's such a good news to know that we all have our own land of Buddha within us. So just make use of this precious time that we have and connect to that sacred land within yourself, the Buddha land. As you find that sacred space within yourself, masters, try to connect to that stream of consciousness that flows within us all. And the beauty of this consciousness is this river of consciousness connects us all. And that oneness we always talk about is this stream of consciousness, my dear masters. It's so beautifully connecting us all, not only human beings, but every life on this creation. Not only life, every being, every bit in this universe has got its own consciousness. And that group consciousness or individual consciousness, again, is interconnected. And that's why we feel that oneness when we sit in meditation. So enjoy that connectedness this morning. As we all know, breath can do wonders. It helps us to cut within ourselves and go deeper and deeper into the layers. And now, my dear masters, we have traveled all the way within us, and we are all interconnected as we are now connected to the stream of consciousness that flows within us all. If you can visualize, the stream of consciousness is like a river that flows within us all. The same river touches all the beings. So through that stream of consciousness, today we can connect to the energies of all the great masters who are present on this platform today. For those who are just joining us, we are taking an opportunity and we're meditating for the first 10 minutes. So my dear masters who have just joined us a little bit later, I request you to join this meditation. We are trying to connect to the consciousness that connects us all, just to feel that oneness on this platform today. Enjoy the energies that are flowing on this platform today. They're amazing. I'm sure you all can feel it. How beautiful it is to connect to the stream of consciousness that brings us all into oneness. All right then, can I request you to rub your palms together and place them on your closed eyes, my dear masters? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Request you to gently remove your palms from your eyes and open your eyes slowly. Take your time. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity so that we could all connect with our energies before we started today's session. So, now that we're all charged with each other's energies, my dear masters, let's kick off our topic today. I wanted to name it many things, the topic, but then I thought I will call it fear-based emotions management. We started this topic, I think maybe a month ago on one of our Facebook meditation, but we only had half an hour and there wasn't much time to really cover this topic, and I never had a chance to get back to you people. So today, because we have time, I would like to complete this topic, but I'm not going to start from where I left it on Facebook because I'm not sure that all the participants on the Facebook are here today. So we will start from beginning, and we will try to cover this topic as efficiently as we can. So basically, my dear friends, today, if we quickly have a look at our agenda to see what we are going to cover today's topic. So today's topic is about emotions. Why emotions? We all know, my dear masters, that one thing that takes us from incarnation to incarnation to incarnation is our karma. And there are three things that are input to our karma. There could be many more things, but there are three important things that feed into this karma, which is the basis of our incarnation. And those three things are thoughts, emotions, and deeds. These are the three important things that are the building blocks for karma, that is responsible, or that is the main cause of every incarnation that we take on this plane. So out of these three, today I wanted to cover one of those. If we have more opportunities, we'll also cover the other two at some other time. But today, I wanted to especially cover emotions. So I said three inputs to karma, three main inputs to karma that we accumulate: thoughts, emotions, and deeds. And today we are going to cover emotions, which will also touch our connections to thoughts and deeds as well, but primarily we'll be talking about emotions. So when we talk about emotions, society in general, you don't have to be a meditator or a spiritual aspirant. Society in general has a good understanding of emotions, especially people have been very quick in labeling emotions as positive or negative. So that much of awareness has already come in the society. People do talk about emotions, people talk about mindfulness, and humanity has realized that there is a lot of connection between mindfulness and emotions. So that's a very good thing. Humanity has evolved to that point, and they have very quickly understood, the basis of this labeling. When I say basis of this labeling, it's not a rocket science that if someone sees or feels an emotion to label it as positive or negative. You don't have to be a great meditator for that. So if that is how the society is, if we are so aware of emotions being labeled as positive and negative, so let's look at from that perspective. Are we worried about positive emotions? I don't think so. There would be hardly anyone who thinks, I'm too happy today, oh my God, what do I do about it? I don't think we ever think about that, do we, masters? Positive emotions are always taken for granted. When I say granted, from the perspective that there's nothing to worry about. We want more of them, isn't it? Why we want more of them? Because if we look at physically, there are a lot of good chemicals coming out of these positive emotions, and it takes us into nice la-la land. And who wants to come out of la-la land? Hardly any. So there's nothing to worry about positive emotions because they make us feel good, isn't it? It's all the feeling good kind of symptoms, feeling good kind of chemicals. So today there's nothing to talk about positive emotions because I'm sure, none of you are worried about positive emotions, isn't it? And I'm sure even outside in the world, no one is worried about. So let's put that in the nothing to do basket. So what remains in front of us today is those emotions, my dear masters, that we recognize as negative emotions. So today especially, we're going to talk about negative emotions. And why I'm using that negative word? Because that's how they are known in today's world. And I didn't want to call this topic as negative emotions, because once you start understanding where this is all coming from, the word negative has got really no meaning. But for us to slowly get into this topic step by step, it's very important to understand first, what is our understanding in general? And from that understanding, how do we go forward, moving into another plane of how we should be really understanding this. So that's the reason I've started from a platform which we very well know, which are called positive and negative emotions. Positive emotions, nothing to worry about. Negative emotions are the ones which we will look a little bit more deeper today in this time that we have got. So when we talk about negative emotions, everyone has got their own understanding, why they are caused, how can we go about it, how can we manage them, and many more things. Before we start looking at it a little bit more deeper, today the session that we are going to cover, what are these negative emotions? Why are they caused? What are the symptoms? We're going to talk about the symptoms quite in detail. And what are the effects of that on our body as well as in our life? So this is all the diagnostics and the symptoms that we have done. Then what? Once we have realized what they are doing to our body and our surroundings, definitely we would like to do something more about it. And that's what we will talk, my dear masters. We'll try to look at it a bit more closely so that our understanding about these emotions can change and we can turn them into something more productive, something more constructive, that is more useful for us and to the society around us. Because, my dear masters, it's very important to talk us and the society around us. Because we are not individuals alone living in our own life. We're living in a society. We are a social being. We all know that. We don't have to be a spiritual master. So whatever we do has an impact on us as well as the society around us, and the family and the community that we are living in. That's all part of a society that we are talking about. So in today's session, we will also like to go a little bit deeper to see how we can change this into more productive environment, or from negative, what can we bring out that it can turn into more productive and constructive. So that's what we are going to talk in this 1.5 hours, my dear masters. Before we go any more deeper, now let's, with what agenda we have gone out in detail, now we know what we are here to achieve. We put that aside. We'll come back from time to time to see how far we have gone in our agenda, how much more we have to do. Okay, masters? So when we look at it, some things that we have to understand, these are called the basic things. What are these basic things? When we live in nature, or when we are living in this universe, very important to be aware what are the laws of nature. So today, before we go into much deeper into emotions, let's talk about what are the laws of nature. I did discuss about these laws of nature a month ago, but that's okay. This topic, we are doing it from scratch, so I wouldn't mind repeating them once again. So there are 4 laws of nature, my dear friends. Number 1, food we eat, it has to be out in 24 hours, else we'll fall ill. So what do I mean has to be out in 24 hours? Whatever food we eat, Whatever food goes into our stomach, we digest. A portion of that becomes our blood. Some goes into developing our muscles, or whatever form it has to become in our cellular structure, which is all constructive of for building our body. That happens. But there is still considerable part of it which is not going to be used for our body construction. And that goes into our large intestine, and it has to be expelled. And if that is not expelled within 24 hours, you see symptoms of sickness in human body. It could be any kind of symptom starting from constipation. And slowly that can turn into illness. So that's the first law of nature. We all need to remember that food we eat, any waste that remain in our body has to be out in 24 hours. Otherwise, the person will fall ill. It can start small, but it can turn into bigger things. That's the first law of nature. Second law of nature, water we drink has to be out in 4 hours, else a person will fall ill. So whatever water we are drinking, whatever our body needs for, again, building our body, building our cells, building our organs, will all be consumed. But whatever else is remaining as a waste in our body, that water has to be out in 4 hours. If you can hold more than 4 hours, it's fine, but it's not good for your body. Rule number 3, this is the third law of nature. The air that we breathe, we are all very familiar with our breathing, isn't it, masters? Because we all do breath meditation. We are so aware of every breath that we take, and so aware of every exhale. So we may not be very familiar or very aware of food and water that I talked about, the first law of nature and the second law of nature, but we all understand the third law of nature, which is our breath. So today, in the third law of nature, we are talking about air, which is going inside in the form of our breath. And now I'm talking about a normal human being. For a normal human being, this cycle of inhale and exhale, it may vary from person to person, because some people, they're more calm, so they breathe slowly. Their breaths are pretty long. They inhale calmly, they exhale calmly. And there could be times when you're anxious and your breathing cycle is going fast. In any case, when we talk about an average, that means in your normal routine, when you're breathing, it all happens in a cycle of 1 minute. If that doesn't happen in a cycle of 1 minute, then that can be very dangerous for a human being. Now, I'm not talking about those great people who sit in yoga and do kumbhaka. We all know what is kumbhaka, hold your breath. And then they can practice for half an hour. They can go inside water, hold their breath. We see in the movies, we see with different yogis. So I'm not talking about them. We are talking about an average, normal human being. Yeah. So we talked about 3 things. What did we talk about? The first law of nature, food we eat has to be out in 24 hours, else we can fall ill. Water we drink has to be out in 4 hours, else we can fall ill. Air we breathe has to be out in 1 minute, else we die, or it can be very fatal. The fourth one, that's very, very important, which is more important, or comparatively more important than the first 3, is our negative emotions. We're talking about food, water, and air, but what about those negative emotions like hatred, anger, jealousy, insecurity, which we hold in our body for days, for months, for years, and sometimes, my dear masters, for incarnations. If some of you are wondering that do we really take emotions from one incarnation to another, my dear masters, yes, we do. We take these incarnations from one life to another. Sorry, we take these negative emotions from one incarnation to another. Hence, it is very important to understand this. The first 3 things that I was talking about, the food, the water, the air, that can be in just one incarnation. But The negative emotions that I've just mentioned, like hatred, anger, jealousy, insecurity, all these things that we carry within ourselves has a tendency to go beyond these incarnations. And that's why there could be people who are born in the same family, same upbringing, but they react differently because of those emotions that they carry from their past lives. If there are positive emotions, we don't talk about it. So what we are talking from here on, when I say emotions, is only related to negative emotions, my dear masters. Positive, we are not worried. We like that. So let's not talk about it. What we like is not a problem. And we don't talk about something that's not a problem. We only talk about something that needs to be rectified. So for all purposes of discussion today on this platform, when I say emotions, I'm talking about negative emotions only. So when I was saying that we carry from incarnations, if that is our tendency to hold it, these emotions, when they arise in this life, and if we deal with it in this life, it becomes a bit more manageable because you know the origin of these emotions, because you can remember that if suppose these emotions were caused because of an incident 5 years ago, you understand that you had this incident and hence you are carrying this negative emotions, you have this conditioning. So you know how to treat yourself, because your memory span in one incarnation goes till your childhood, as long as you can start remembering, isn't it? Like 3 years or 2.5 years or so. If anything happened, you know, since that time, at least there is a chance for us to remember why it happened and we could do something about it. But if we are carrying the effect of emotions even from past lives, imagine what will be our plight. We would have no clue why they are coming, from where they are coming. We cannot go as far back as we would like to. But we'll talk about it more. But what I'm saying is, these negative emotions which we are holding in our body for days, months, years, and incarnations, even if we leave the incarnations out, if these emotions are not thrown out, like how we throw out the waste food from our body, the waste water from our body, the waste air from our body, if we don't do anything about these negative emotions, then what happens? It props up into psychosomatic diseases. And these psychosomatic diseases have become epidemic in the current environment, in the current society, my dear friends. Every other person is suffering from either anxiety or depression or both. And in some cases, this leads to suicide attempts, whether it's failure or success, doesn't matter. They both are equally bad. And yet, many of us do nothing about it. If you have recognized that you have negative emotions which are playing havoc with your life, that's one good thing. First of all, you have to recognize, then acknowledge. Many people recognize, but they won't acknowledge. They know something is going on with them, but they don't want to acknowledge. So first recognize, then acknowledge, then accept. Accepting is the difficult part, that you're living with those negative emotions. And the moment you accept it, you get the courage to look at it a bit more deeply. You have the courage to go within yourself a little bit more deeply. You get the courage only by accepting. And once you start looking at deeply, then you understand the pattern that has been created for so long. And looking deeply has its own benefit. Then the whole story comes out in front of you, the pattern that you have been suffering for so long. And this is the first part of which is called diagnosis. Once it's diagnosed, then it doesn't take long for people to ask for help. So that is the cycle of negative emotions. But what I wanted to tell you out of this law of nature story that I started, food, waste food has to be thrown out in 24 hours. Waste water has to come out in 4 hours. Waste air cycling has to be done within a minute. Otherwise, there'll be danger to your physical aspect of your body. These are only 3 physical parts we are talking about on the physical plane. But the 4th one that we are talking about has got its impact more than the physical plane, because this is happening from a different plane. So what the 4th one is important, which I'm repeating again, is if these negative emotions that we just talked about, that most of us are living with it for days, for months and years, if they are not thrown out regularly, they have to be thrown out regularly, like how we recycle water, recycle air, recycle food from our body. These negative emotions we have to keep recycling out, because it's not once in lifetime. We keep gathering that again and again, acquiring more. If this recycle hasn't been done on a regular basis, then rest assured, it will prop up into psychosomatic diseases. And that is the problem in this world today. Epidemic. It has become an epidemic. So, as I was saying, that we are holding these emotions for so long, not only days, not only years, not only months, but we are carrying it from incarnation to incarnation. Those people who were or who are traveling with me along on my journey of Sitayana wisdom sharing, there's a beautiful paragraph in that which I shared with people when I was doing my episode 2. And it has left an imprint in my mind, and it's so important that we need to understand that how this is playing so much havoc with our incarnations, because most of us on this platform are spiritual masters. And sometimes when these emotions go into next incarnation, the problem what happens is we do not know why it is happening, where it is coming from, because most of us, or majority of us, do not have the capability of going into our past lives to see the suffering that we are having in this life. Is it being caused in this life? But the cause lies in this life or in the previous lives. How many of us do they have the ability to say, oh, I'm feeling very stressed today. Let me go back all the way to my 3-year-old. Okay, I couldn't find anything. Can I go back into my previous lives? How many of us can do that? Very, very few. Very few. And when I say few, I'm talking about 0.001%. So for all purpose, we can say that once we incarnate on this plane, we do not remember anything about past lives. Because that's the rule of physical plane incarnation. It's called Maya, illusion, that we remember nothing. But there is something called intuition. So what is this? So when I said about Sitayana, something that got imprinted in my mind, it says, when you finish an incarnation, one life falls away and leaves its imprint in the sand, giving rise to another life, taking along the memories which do not die, which are not washed away. They simply sink to the bottom of the mind sea and rest there, folded in the many layers of mental sediment, until called forth to help the soul on its journey towards full awakening. So in this paragraph in Sitayana, what's being mentioned is, when we finish one incarnation, there are a lot of things that we do in one life. But when we finish one incarnation, the key summary or the key essence of that incarnation is still left behind in our memories. The body goes away, but those emotions still carry. And in that emotional remnants that are remaining are those highly positive and negative emotions, which are left as an essence that you carry in the next life. So when you carry that in the next life, you do not know, because it's buried deeply into your subconscious nature. From time to time, they come out as intuitions. Because intuitions are nothing but they're kind of reminders. Positive emotions, we are not worried, because they help you in your progress in your next incarnation. We're not talking about positive. Here we are talking about those negative emotions. There are many people who do not know why they feel what they feel. They don't feel like mixing with people. They just want to sit alone. And they feel quite depressed. Nothing has happened in their life. Something could have happened. A deep imprint could have been left in the last life. We do not know. So this is not the topic about incarnations, but I just want to give you this feeling or this thought that emotions can be this strong. So whatever has been carried from last life to this, there is nothing that you can go back and redo or undo that incident. But at least you have a choice that going forward, how can you carry these negative emotions to make sure they don't impact your life? That's one thing. That is what you have been carrying from last life. But at least do not accumulate more for your next life, or do not accumulate more to ruin your current life. That is what do you learn from previous things, not to do the same mistakes again. So if you do not want to do more mistakes again, you need to understand where this is coming from. Hence, we are going through so much details about this life, about last lives. So this is how this continuation of negative emotions are happening. So it's always good to remember these 4 laws of nature that I just mentioned. The quality about these negative emotions are, this is one of the characteristic of negative emotions. All you need is one negative emotion, and from one negative emotion, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one. You don't have to work hard at all. You just have to ignore the first one. That's all you need to do. That's the beauty of negative emotion. It doesn't need much work. All it needs is just ignore it, and it'll do its job. The moment you start addressing it or you're being aware, it can't do its job. Just ignore it and it'll play havoc in your life. It is like a quicksand. You know how quicksand is? You put one foot in it, you don't have to do much effort. You'll go in. You go in till you are drowned in the quicksand and you're finished. That is how these negative emotions are. My dear friends, you all know I have given this example several times. This is one of the best examples. That's why I keep, because this is one example which shows all shades of negative emotions in one person. And again, when I'm referring to this example of Jaya in Sitayana, without going through the details of that incident, who was Jaya? Just to refresh your memory, we're talking about that realm, that divine realm where Jaya was the gatekeeper, right? That divine realm, we call those the Vaikuntha Loka, but you don't have to even remember that if you're not aware of it. Just higher realm, it's an example from there where we have talked about this person whose name is Jaya. I won't go through the incident, but what I want to say is, it all started with ego. Why it started with ego? And you would say, what's so big wrong about ego? Everyone has an ego. Yes, my dear masters, everyone has an ego on this earth plane. That's how we have created ourselves. But I'm talking about a divine plane because I have to give you an example. If it was a common thing, I can't make it as an example, isn't it? Examples we give so that we can take a special example and from that we can learn. Hence, the speciality is not the ego, but speciality is the divine realm. Why? Because in divine realm, the vibrations are quite high and negative emotions can't last there, or you cannot survive with negative emotions in divine realms. On earth, perfect. Earth is a perfect plane for negative emotions. Very dense, and negative emotions are quite dense. Their vibrations are quite low, the frequencies are quite low, and it matches very well with this earth dimension, at least till now. Going forward, we all know we are going through transition of time. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future. We'll all wait and see. But so far, negative emotions have done well. Yeah, very successfully. We're not talking about this earth realm, my dear masters. We're talking about a realm where these kind of negative emotions are not existent or non-existent. So if there is one, then it can be made into a big story. And hence we are talking about this. It all started with ego, which is not acceptable in divine realms. But this person had ego. Why ego? Because he thought he's special. The position that he had, he thought, I must be special that I've been given this job. That's all it needs, my dear friends. It started all with ego. When you have ego, you have pride. See, I'm so great. I'm so great. As long as you feel you're great, it's fine. But don't look down upon others. There's nothing wrong to feel that I'm great. But at the same time, also think everyone is great. The problem only starts when you think you are the only one who is great. That is where the problem starts. If you think you're good, very nice. If you think you're the best, very good. If you think you're great, all the more better. But don't think the other persons are less than you. That's where the whole comparison story starts. And this is where it started. Ego, pride. And from pride, what happened? Jealousy. Without going through the story, jealousy. You know, he doesn't want the other person to get the same privilege that he's got. Why? Because he thinks only I should be great, not everyone. So when Brahma's Manasaputra, they come, he doesn't want to let them in because he can see in their hearts, they have got pure love. Why he's jealous? Because he knows he doesn't have that purity in his heart. He can see the fault in his. So what happens? Jealousy. Then envying. And after that, what happens, my dear masters? From there, he starts lying to the Supreme Consciousness, to Vishnumurti himself he is lying. And from lying, deceit. He starts telling lies. He starts building up stories. And not only that, then he's so angry with those 4 sages because in his mind he's thinking they have gone and complained to Vishnumurti. Nothing has happened. This is the story he's building up. That's what happens with negative emotions, my dear masters. We have the capacity to keep building stories, giving fuel to the fire. That's what it's called. The fire is already burning. The ego fire already started in Jaya, and this is all the fuel that he was giving, building up his stories. So then he was angry with those 4 Brahmas, Manasputras, those 4 sages, because he thought that those 4 have gone and complained against him. Nobody complained. There was no complaint there. But in his mind, he's already made up his mind, so he was angry. Then what? He didn't leave that at that point. He goes to the 4 sages and insults them. And then he comes back, and when Sriman Narayana comes and gives him a warning that you have done this twice. I've asked you to retreat in meditation. You haven't done it. Then what happens? He feels self-pity. That see, I was used to be so close to Sriman Narayana, and because of these 4 sages, I've become a victim. Victim. So victim means self-pity. And did self-pity stop at there? No. It turned into revenge. Now he wants to take revenge with the 4 sages. Such a small story, but we have seen 8 shades of negative emotions in one incident within 2 minutes. Just by one person thinking that he is great, and he doesn't want others to be great, comparison. And when he sees the true nature of other persons, that they are really greater or purer than him, jealousy. And then to hide his jealousy and what he has done, he turns them away. He asks them to go away. And now to hide that, he has to lie. Not only lie, deceit. And then doesn't stop there, turns into anger on those 4 sages, goes and insults them, and then comes back and feels self-pity and tries to take revenge. How many we have talked about, my dear friends? Already 9 or 10 shades of negative emotions, all in one. This is how it is. We might be talking a story about Jaya, but it is a story about us all. It is not a story about Jaya alone. Okay, this is how we deal in our life. It's not uncommon, my dear friends. It is not at all uncommon. We think these things don't happen to us, but these happen to us all the time. All we need is one negative shade of emotion, and it can build itself into whatever it wants. Now, I always say, things not necessarily be done. When I take this example of Jaya and his ego, see, he was having ego for quite some time, but it didn't come out. The problem started when he started expressing that into deeds, into words and actions. That's where it's called manifestation, isn't it? When things are there deep within ourselves, they're only seeds there. But if you start putting water, you give nice fertilizer, it will nicely become a tree and come out. These negative emotions also start from seed nature. Many of us Outside, we may look saintly, but in our minds, we may also have shades of negative emotions. The only difference is we are not encouraging those shades of negative emotions. Hence, we have managed to keep it within us. So, I'm not saying it's great to have seeds of negative emotions within you. That also need to be, we have to do something about it. But more than that, it's all right if you have those seeds of emotion, if you're able to talk to yourself and you have recognized that it's not right and you're keeping it all under control, it's not going to do any damage either to you or to the other person. See, that example of Jaya, he had this ego seed within him for quite some time. When did it manifest? It only manifested when he started changing that ego into pride. He had this ego, but now he started building a character upon that. Now he's got his personality based on that. So what happened? He started identifying with his ego. As long as he had little bit and he did not pay attention, it would have been fine. But when he started identifying himself with this pride, with this ego, it manifested. When you identify or associate yourself with something, you become that and you start living in that form. So the example that I have given in the past, but it's very appropriate here, I'll give again, is example of shoplifting. We see it's so common. There are incidents of shoplifting. Every supermarket, everywhere you go, there are people who, for shoplifting, for those who haven't heard this word, shoplifting is you just go pick something in the shop, don't pay at the counter, and somehow manage to breach the security, or even if you haven't breached, just don't get caught and run away. If you're lucky, you will run away without being caught. But if you're not lucky, then you'll be fined, you'll be jailed. There are a lot of repercussions. But does it stop people from shoplifting? No. When you read the statistics of shoplifting, almost 8 to 10% of their people lose their revenue because of that. That's why they've got those boxers at the shop entrance, who are checking, and there are those beeping machines. In spite of all that, shoplifting is a common thing. Why do you think it's happening? You think people who are shoplifting, they are in dire need, or they're dying because they don't have things and that's why they have to go and get it for survival? No, my dear friends. It is, don't think that this is because that they are, what they are shoplifting is their basic survival needs. No. Maybe one or two examples, maybe, yes, they need that, without which they can't survive, so they don't have money and they've gone shoplifting. But majority of the people just do it for the kick. Do it for the kick of it. What does it mean, doing for the kick of it? Means just doing it because it gives them happiness, that they've done something outside the box, they're able to break the system. Everyone wants to push their boundaries, try it, it gives them a kick. Why they get a kick? Just like, you have alcohol, you get a kick, you take drugs, you get more kick, you do something, just like that. People just want to keep exploring. You keep exploring the boundary, it's fine, at your own cost. But when your exploring starts affecting the society, then it is not acceptable. And this shoplifting is an example where people are stretching their boundaries for their own kick. And this act of theirs is not limited to themselves alone, it is also affecting the community. So now, if we go back to the shoplifting, which is coming out of a negative shade of yours, what is that negative shade? In your mind, you want to try to break the rule. Why the rules are put? For people's safety, for people's convenience. And if you break that rule, that means you're inconveniencing another person, isn't it? If rules are put for people's convenience and safety, if you try to break the rule, that means you are trying to go against the safety and convenience of people. That means out of self-interest. When you're trying to inconvenience others, that means you do not care about people around you. You're only talking about yourself, your happiness, your kick, your way of living. You don't care about the community around. So then the question is, why would you, if it is not a necessity, why you're doing it? Then the answer is for the kick of it. If it is not your dire need, and if you're doing just for sake of fun, then the question arises that it is so bad, how can they do it? My dear friends, what I want to share here is the idea of shoplifting. I had a chance to talk to many people at one time, and when we were sitting at the coffee shop and we were just going around and talking about, there were many people who were saying, deep within them, they don't mind, giving it a try, the shoplifting for the sake of, just fun, but they don't feel it's right, so they don't do it. So what I'm saying is, like Jaya had this seed of ego in him for long. Nothing happened then. He was, because Sriman Narayana says, Jaya, I know you had this seed for a long time, but as long as it didn't come out associating with your personality, it was fine. Now it has become a wildfire. So as long as this shoplifting is there somewhere in deep in your mind, thinking, yeah, they must be having fun. Maybe, it's not a bad idea. But you have this idea that, yeah, it can give you kick, but at the same time, your conscience says that, yes, you may like it, but it's not a good thing. You're suppressing it. Suppression is not good, but just for the sake of it, you're not letting it come out into your personality. Yeah, but if someone asks opinion, yeah, you can always say, maybe it's fun. So there are people, what I'm saying, there are people who have got this as a seed, but there are people who have let this seed come out by watering it and by letting it happen. So the people who have brought it into full form are reflecting it in the form of action. They go and do it. But there are others who keep it and don't let it come out. Yeah. So why the same thought in one person it has come out and the other person it has not come out? Because everything starts with the thought, isn't it? All these emotions are all starting with the thought. So the thought of shoplifting has come in two persons, but one person has suppressed it, saying, no, not right. The other person, oh, it's okay, maybe. Again the thought came, and now he's letting it come up fully. He goes into shoplifting, does it. Whether he gets caught or not, it's not our problem. So why the difference? Why the difference is, it's that difference lies in our morals. You and I might have the same seed within us, but if you have suppressed your seed and kept it in check, suppress is not the word, in check. If you've kept that desire or that thought in check, then that's not going to reflect anywhere. But if I didn't have many morals and my moral said it's okay, that's okay. I like this idea, I'll just go try it out because I don't feel it's wrong. Okay, it might cause a little bit of revenue damage for the shop. So what? It's such a big shop. If I pick one, one small toothbrush without paying, what's the big deal? The difference between the two people is dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is your understanding of this world. And that dharma changes from person to person. And that's why these negative emotions, the shades that keep coming out, can be kept in check with our dharma, or it can be left open completely. So this can only be done as long as you are in control. Then these negative emotions, once they are out, they take control of you. Then you don't have any control. Then you are just a robot in their hands and you're wondering, how do I get out of its grip? So very important to understand that every person has his own dharma. And based on that dharma, you do karma. And what was that karma? If karma means action, a deed. In this example, if that karma is shoplifting, why two people having the same thought at one point of time in their mind, why one goes and does this karma and the other does not and keeps his thought in check, is because of their dharmas. They have different dharmas. Dharma means different morals, different understanding of the world. Then why they have different understanding of the world? I like to go deeper and deeper and deeper, because if we leave it at one point, then you might have this question, why? So let's ask the why. So why two people, two normal human beings we are talking, isn't it? We are not talking about abnormal beings. We're talking about normal beings. Why two normal beings who started with the seed of thought? Why two karmas? Why two actions? Like one hasn't done it, but the other one has gone and done it. Because of dharma. And understanding of the world is always different from person to person to person. So that is why what my dharma could be is different from your dharma. So that is very important. You might feel inconveniencing the shop is wrong. That is your dharma. To me, that's okay. It's only a small thing. The shopkeeper can handle this. That is how Ravana came out, isn't it? For Ravana, it was okay to express his negative energies to express his illusionary world. You know how much he used to torture people? Why didn't he stop it? Because Ravana's dharma said it's okay to torture people. That's okay. What matters to me is I should have control on this universe. That is what more matters to me more. Doesn't matter if, you know, people are getting a little bit hurt. It's okay. His dharma, his understanding of the world was all self-centered around him. This is how, masters, you might be thinking, does this happen to all of us? Was it only in the case of Ravana? It happens to anyone. Ravana is an extreme example. But what I'm trying to say is, these negative emotions, many things when they start, if you keep having a self-introspection and check on that, they don't come in full form. But coming in that full form or not coming in the full form depends on your understanding of yourself. When I say understanding of the world, what is your world? There are only two worlds. One is external world and one is internal world for you, isn't it? External world is the world that you see around you, and internal world is everything inside you. So only two worlds. So your understanding about how your internal world operates, your understanding about your interaction with the external world is what your world is, isn't it? External world is nothing but your interaction with the external world. And actual world, your world is your world inside you. So when we forget that we are all a thread in the big fabric of creation. So what is this fabric of creation? If the whole creation, the manifested world, can be taken as a fabric, what is a fabric? Fabric is a woven cloth. You know how many threads are going in a fabric? Each thread, if you can consider as an individual being, if we can all visualize ourselves as threads in this fabric of creation, then you will understand what is our role in it. If one thread is pulled out of the fabric, my dear masters, you can see there is a anomaly. It's not normal. There is an abnormality there. So when every person thinks that, I'm living for myself, if every person starts living out of self-interest and keeps pulling that thread, why I'm talking about keep pulling? When you don't see yourself as part of your fabric and you think, oh, I'm living for myself, it is like pulling that thread out of the fabric. If everyone pulls the thread, then what is left? Nothing. But this creation doesn't work like that. We are interwoven like threads in a fabric. And whether we understanding it or not, why I say whether we understanding it or not, because everyone has got his own dharma. I said, no, you may think that my dharma is only working for myself because I don't care about the world. You may think that, but you are part of the fabric. Whether you like it or not, every deed of yours affect everything in the universe and vice versa. Very important to understand that. When we understand that we are interbeings, it's called interbeings. Interbeings means beings dependent on each other. The whole universe is dependent on each other. Nothing is independent. So when we understand that dependency, then that self-interest activity oriented from self-interest behavior will slowly diminish. So that is why I'm saying dharma has to be changed. If you want to take control of your thoughts, of your emotions, then the main thing is your understanding of this world has to change. And that is what is dharma. Your dharma, you have to keep refining. Dharma, it doesn't mean that when you were born, this is your dharma. So it keeps like that throughout your life. No. As we keep learning more and more, understanding more and more, dharma keeps changing. Example, many of us, this is not judging anybody, so please do not take it personal. It's only an example. So many of us, when we started, whatever was our normal diet, vegetarian or non-vegetarian, doesn't matter. That was a normal diet we were introduced. But as we went on, if our understanding evolved and we thought, oh, we cannot harm anyone else, so I will remove my non-vegetarian part of it from my diet, then what is that? That is evolving of your understanding of the world, isn't it? And then after a while, you look at your meal and you think, oh, I still have got animal product, I'm taking cheese, I'm taking milk. And now my understanding is, I don't want to torture further okay, I'm not killing them, but I want to be more gentle with them. Okay, so I'm becoming a vegan. Just an example. So what has happened? Now your understanding has evolved further. This is what happens, my dear masters. This is only example, but everything around us regarding that, our understanding keeps changing as we open up to every dimension in this world. When we start opening up, when we start listening, we start understanding. Every minute our dharma is changing, because every minute information is going on. And as we keep evolving, as our dharma keeps changing or evolving, our karma changes along with it. That's why it's very important, because I said there are three things that go into our karma, which is thoughts, emotions, and actions. So everything, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, they are so interconnected with dharma. And what is dharma? Understanding of the world, which keeps evolving every minute in a human being. Important to understand these things. Don't think that, oh, his dharma is always like that. His dharma won't be always like that. Dharma means your morals, which change. Moral, I'm not saying good or bad. Whatever your understanding, whatever your right and wrong is, yeah, that keeps evolving. Something that was right to you 10 years ago may not seem right today. What does that mean? That means you have evolved, your dharma has evolved, your understanding of this world has evolved. That is how we do it. So, because we know that if our understanding gets more better and clearer, then it is better for the way we understand. Then what we need to understand is, today we have built a society that thrives and works from fear-based emotions. Today, the society is totally working on fear-based emotions. How can I say that? Because first of all, what is a fear-based emotion, and why do we think that currently the society is working from fear-based emotions? So if I say there is a fear-based emotion, I've already declared that there is a platform for emotions which is fear-based, then obviously you will ask, what is the other platform? So there are two platforms. Every emotion comes from either this platform or that platform. Any emotion, my dear friends, if you start drilling it down, then you can trace its source to either fear-based, or the second one is called love-based emotions. So there are two platforms, my dear friends: fear-based emotions, love-based emotions. So first, let us understand what are these two platforms. It gives us more clear understanding. When you talk about things like compassion, including everybody, consulting with people, taking their opinion, teamwork, these are all products of a society that's built on universal love. And hence, these kind of emotions and thoughts are coming from love-based emotions. So love-based emotion totally understands that you are not independent. You cannot be selfish, and you cannot sit in my home saying, I'm only thinking about myself and my interest. No, love-based platform understands, the basic understanding is, we are thread in that big fabric. We cannot think in isolation with others. We have to look at our society. So we have to look at that oneness. We did a meditation of oneness today. That oneness, when you understand there is a stream of consciousness, or there's a connection connecting us all, then anything you do, any thought, any activity, any emotion that comes up, we'll take that into consideration. Hence, compassion, inclusion, consultations, they're all products of this, the society that built on love-based. Now when we come back to fear-based emotions, what are the things that seem familiar to you? Exclusion, elimination, competition, survival. These are all the words and emotions of a society that is built on this fear-based emotions. You understand, my dear friends? Today, the society is primarily working from this fear-based emotion. Wherever you go, what kind of talks you see? Oh my God, there is only one job, there are 20 candidates. You have to fight for survival. Competition, survival, fighting, these are all negative emotions. The moment you feel that there is only little there and there are so many for it, what is the first thing that comes in your mind? That you have to be better than the other, isn't it? Already comparison has started. And then your hatred for the other person, not that you want to hate, but if you have to succeed, then your automatic reaction is, I want them to fail. Because you know, all of you in your thinking, this is your thinking. Thoughts from these fear-based emotions are never that as a society, it's all that I have to be better. This is how from generations we have been taught. What do we say? Fittest, survival of the fittest, isn't it? That whoever is the fittest can survive. That is how we have been trained. And these are called samskaras from generations that come to us. We haven't started this. If we had started, it would not have been so deep into our personality. So, my dear masters, this society is thriving on an idea that all the resources are limited. So the whole thinking is limited, that there is only so much resources and there are so many people. The moment supply is less and demand is more, what will happen? People will try to jump on each other. How can you love the next person when you're all trying to aim for the same thing? Wherever there is scarcity, negative emotions start first. See, anything, any negative emotion you take, fear, anger, why will you be, we're going to look at it a little bit more closely in a minute, but they all thrive from the fear-based emotion. So why did I touch this topic, my dear masters? I touched this topic so that you understand that anytime you have an emotion in your mind, even before you do anything with the emotion, just test it. Has it come from the fear-based platform or love-based platform? Because if it is from fear-based platform, you need to change it. And how can you change it? By changing your thought that there is abundance in this universe. There is no scarcity. There is plenty for everyone. Scarcity is in your thought. Scarcity is in your dharma, the way you're understanding the world. That's why I said, when your understanding develops and you understand the concept of abundance and gratitude and forgiveness, slowly all the emotions that you have from fear-based emotions start dying. They start dying. And then you understand what is this platform. My dear masters, it is very important to understand what I'm saying about this fear-based platform and love-based platform. Anytime you feel that a negative emotion has cropped up or popped up in your consciousness, immediately trace the root. It will go back to fear-based emotion. Fear-based emotion means you're fearing for something, and try to find out why. If it is anger, it is jealousy, or it's hatred, whatever negative shade, all the primal root is fear. And where is the fear coming from? Lack. So everything comes down to either lack or abundance. These are the only two things. So lack is the backbone of the fear-based platform, and abundance is the platform for love-based platform. There is, first of all, the understanding is there is no lack. If there was lack, this universe will not have been there. This universe has come into existence out of this unconditional love, which means plenty for everything, everyone. And if you need to understand that, you need to change your thinking, the way, go within yourself, connect to your consciousness, connect to your inner self. That is where the abundance understanding will come out. And then you will not be angry with anyone, because there is no necessity to be angry with anyone. Why? There is plenty for everyone. If there are 4 people and there is food for 400, why do you have to run? Why do you have to jump? You can happily sit at home, no problem. Since the time I've got married, I mean, this is just a personal example, I've never seen my husband rushing for anything. Even in the queues, he will not push anyone. I mean, even back in India, he's even for movie counters, you know, sometimes we say, oh, can we stand in the front? He says, okay, we will get it. And I don't know if it is belief or is it understanding. Now I understand. But in those days when I didn't have spiritual understanding that much, I used to be surprised. Everyone is rushing for tickets. Why is he taking it so cool? And he used to say, don't rush. There is plenty. We will get it. Where did he get that understanding from? Whatever his understanding was about this world, whatever his reading was, maybe he was reading, he was talking to people, or maybe understanding from his past life. We don't know. And that's what I'm saying. It is all your understanding about this world that will help you with your emotions. So my dear friends, we have to understand these 2 platforms. It's very, very important. Yeah. So There are a couple of negative emotions which we all struggle all the time. So today, for our further discussion, there are three main negative emotions that I'm going to touch on. And most of us have this problem. Number one, anger. I don't think it's rare to find anger, isn't it? Even among ourselves, whoever is there on the platform, I'm sure, if not every day, most of us have gone through this negative emotion called anger. So if this is something that everyone faces it all the time, even spiritual people, meditators, it's not a foreign emotion. Anger is something that we all have seen through. What is it? Anger is the first thing we need to discuss because it has got direct impact on our physical construct or physical composition of the body. If anger is not controlled, people have ulcers, acidity. The more you get angry, let's talk about it. What is anger? Anger means it is non-acceptance of things that are beyond your control. Beautiful definition. Write it down if you want to, but this will help you if you break it down and see what it is. Anger is non-acceptance of things beyond your control. What does it mean? In this definition, there are two things. Non-acceptance of things, and second part, beyond your control. Let's talk about the second part first, okay? Beyond your control. If something is beyond your control, what can you do? There is nothing you can do, isn't it? So just leave it. Because why I'm saying leave the second part, I'm trying to analyze this definition of anger. The anger definition means non-acceptance of things beyond your control. So I've broken it down into two parts. I'll come back to the first part, but I said second part means beyond your control. So if things are beyond your control, there's really nothing you can do. That's why you have called it beyond your control. So second part is beyond your control, so you can't do anything. So let's look at the first part. Can we do something about the first part? Because we are looking how to manage anger or how not to have it. So we're trying to go deeper into this definition. So what's the first part we said? Non-acceptance of things. Do you have any control on this, masters? Can you do something about this? Because the second part we said we can't do anything. Second part says things beyond your control. That itself in the definition is self-explanatory. It says you can't do anything is beyond your control. So we're looking at the first part now. Non-acceptance of things. Can you do anything about it? If we look at the first word, which is called non-acceptance, what is it telling us? That means there is something in us that is not allowing us to accept those things that are beyond your control. Yeah? Just look at your anger and remember when you got anger. If things were happening according to what you want, you wouldn't be angry. But things are happening which you cannot accept. Two parts. Something is happening there. But what are the two parts? That you are not able to accept it is one part. Then can you change it? You can't change it. Why? Because it's beyond your control. And that's what creates anger. So let's look at it a bit more deeper, my dear friends. Something is happening in front of you. You're not able to accept it. We have talked about these choices many times in awareness workshop. I'm going to bring that awareness here because awareness workshop that we have done in the beginning of this year is a key to every problem on this earth. So let's bring it in this aspect. Non-acceptance of things. Something is happening in front of you. You're not able to accept it. What choice do you have? One, if you're not able to accept, then you should be able to change it. That's one option. Number two, if you cannot change it, then what did I say in awareness session? Separate yourself from the situation. That means go away. So again, I'm telling you, listen carefully. Number one is, if you're not able to accept things the way they are, then try to change it. But what does the anger definition says? You cannot change it because these things are beyond your control. So first option, gone. Second option, separating yourself from the area. You're not able to separate it Because if you could separate, then no problem, isn't it? So first two options are not there for you at all. That is why you are getting angry. You're getting angry because whatever is happening in front of you, you are not able to accept it. You cannot change it. You cannot distance yourself. So your heart is struggling because you can't accept. Then what choice do you have, my dear masters? If you go back to awareness, what did I say? When you cannot accept, when you cannot change things, or you cannot run away from it, the only option you have is to accept it and acknowledge it. Awareness workshop. How many of you have attended the workshop? I don't know, but I think almost all of you. If you haven't attended my workshop, at least you would have heard my videos. People who are new to my workshop today, for your benefit, I have a YouTube workshop where I have loaded, or my friend Lavanya has loaded all my videos. And that YouTube channel is called Saroja Self-Empowerment Workshops. So if you haven't listened to my awareness workshop, I request you to do it because it's very important to our daily life. I'm bringing that here. In that awareness workshop, we talked about it. When you can't change, you can't distance yourself from what's happening, then the third option is accept it. So see, my dear masters, when you do the third option, what happens here? Again, for your reminder, I'm giving the definition. Anger means non-acceptance of things beyond your control. Now, the second part, you can't do anything, but you can do something with the first part, which we just talked. Non-acceptance of things. If you take out that non, and if you accept the things, anger will become into tolerance. Hence, people who have more tolerance get anger less. Anger and tolerance are mutually opposite. Very important fact in life, my dear masters. If you are getting too much angry, then understand this is the wisdom behind it. If you can turn that non-acceptance, remove the word non and accept the things because it's beyond your control, you can't do anything, then that quality or that negative quality of yours becomes the positive quality. So from negative quality of anger, you have changed yourself to a more tolerant person. And what does a tolerant person do? He has the ability to accept more. So second part, nobody can change. A tolerant person or anger person cannot change the second part of definition because things are beyond your control. The only thing that's in your control is how you accept it or don't accept it. My dear friends, that is the fine line between anger and tolerance. If you can accept things that beyond your control because you cannot change it or you cannot distance yourself from it. When I say distance means run away from it, then that anger quality, negative quality becomes a positive quality and it is called tolerance. That is what it is. And in Bhagavad Gita, beautifully, it is mentioned so beautifully that if you do not address these negative qualities, what happens to your body and your mind? Bhagavad Gita is a super document, you know. Everyone should read Bhagavad Gita anytime. When you just take one shloka, drill into it, drill till you can start making a connection with your life. And such a beautiful shloka that I'm going to talk here because it is very apt here. What is that? You might have heard this. Dhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshopajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bijayate krodat bhavati sammoha sammohat smruti vibhramaha smruti brahmat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. That is the Bhagavad Gita shloka. What is it saying? Where does all the problem starts from? Some idea comes up in our mind. Such a beautiful chain of emotion and thought this shloka is. It's beautiful. I don't know how many times I would have read this. I've almost memorized this now. So what are they saying in that shloka? Some idea comes up in our mind. You know, some vishya. Vishya means some topic, some desire comes in our mind, some idea. I won't even say desire. It says some idea comes up. You see, you have gone to somebody's house. They have a nice couch. Yeah, the couch is nice. You come back home. Then you look at your couch. You remember that couch. Wow, their couch was good. Couch was good. Keep talking about couch was good. Not only talking, you are thinking. Sangas tesho pajayate. That means, Sangha means association. So same thought when you keep associating again and again. So first a small thought came, and when you keep repeating, Sangha means association with that idea. You keep doing it all the time. What does that become? That turns into a desire, kamaha. It started as an idea. You keep association with that idea all the time. That idea becomes your life and then comes out in the form of desire. What happens to desire? When your desire doesn't get completed, what happens? Anger. So go back to your definition of anger. You want something, but it's not happening according to that. That's what is anger, isn't it? You wanted the couch. You saw in your friend's place. You can't get it. Your husband's income is not enough, or you have got other priorities where money has to be spent. That bloody couch is not coming into my house. Now you're getting angry. Or you saved money for the couch this time, but daughter is sick, you spend the money. This turns into anger. Why? Because you have so great association with that desire, but the situations are out of your control. Your daughter got sick. What can you do? But you are not able to accept. If you could accept, what was your acceptance? That's okay. Yes, I wanted that couch, but my daughter is more important. So this is going on. But most of the time, we want everything. Daughter has to be treated, plus couch has to come. It's beyond your control. So from kama came krodha. This is how beautifully the chain. A small thought came in your mind. Sangas tesho pajayate. Keep on associating with that thought has turned into kama. Sangat sanjayate, kama means you keep on associating, thinking about it. Day and night you think about couch. Oh, beautiful couch. It becomes a desire. And that desire, when you keep on cherishing, flaming that desire, when it does not get fulfilled, becomes krodha. Kamat krodho bijayate. Then after that, one after another, krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama. Then what happens? Your mind won't work, because you go into a trance. All you want is that couch, and you're angry, and you have lost all your senses. Anger person, nothing works for them. Nothing. They can't think straight. Though when you can't think straight, your mind is not working. Smriti vibramaha. You cannot even remember things. Smriti is gone. Then that will cause buddhi nashana. Your buddhi, your intellect will stop working the way it is supposed to work. And when your intellect stops working, your whole life is ruined. See how one small thing, one thought, it comes like a spark. But that is when you got to keep it in check, my dear masters. This is the training that we need to give to our consciousness. There is so much out in the material world. You know, someone might have couch, someone might have fridge, daughter must have gone to some other country because they can afford. Yes, nothing wrong, because you are a human being. You have desires, you have feelings. You might feel that is good, but everything that you feel good, don't make it into desire. Don't have the sangha. Sangha means association with that thought all the time. Because if you are not careful, that little thought will become a wildfire and will ruin you. And the whole chain of thoughts, Bhagavad Gita has told it so well. That is why negative emotions are so important to be kept in check. Because buddhi nasham, your intellect is gone. Once your intellect stops working in the right direction, then shoplifting is okay. Why? Because intellect tells us this is right, that is wrong, this is right. If this is out of check, then even shoplifting will be okay for you. Anything is okay. Go and kill people, that is okay. So how negative shades can take control of our life, this one shloka of Bhagavad Gita explains us so well. So now let's talk about another emotion. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is, I am trying to pick all those emotions that we struggle with in our day-to-day lives. So we talked about anger, and I gave you the whole chain of events, how it happens. Now let's talk about fear. What is fear? I like to put it in definition like how I put it in anger. Don't forget these definitions, my dear masters. I would really like you to put it somewhere, write it and put it in your living room, because it really helps us when we look at them. Whenever we go through some negative emotions, look at them. It will keep in check. So we talked about anger. Now let's talk about fear. What is fear? Non-acceptance of uncertainty. So let's break it down into two parts. First part, non-acceptance. Second part, uncertainty. What is uncertainty? There is something that is going to happen. You don't know what it is. Yeah, you don't know what it is. There's something uncertain. If you know that things for certain, then what is there to fear? Most of the fear is about not sure how this is going to work. I have a homework. It starts very early in the life. I have a homework. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm not sure what marks I'm going to get. I'm not sure whether I'm going to pass or not. I'm not sure I'm going to get this job or not. I'm not sure if I can marry or not. Whenever you feel you're not sure about the outcome, that is uncertainty. So you're not sure, and because of that, uncertainty has arisen. When you cannot accept that, that is fear. That is all fear is, my dear masters. Non-acceptance of uncertainty. Many times, I'm telling you, this happens in university students, children as well. A big project or homework is given to them. They won't even start it and they're fearing. Just by thinking about it, they're fearing. Why? Because they are already thinking 10 steps ahead. This is the problem. Oh my God, I may do it, but I may not do it as well as others. I'm not sure how this is going to come out. I'm not sure if my lecturer is going to correct it as right or wrong. I'm not sure after that I'll pass or not. All uncertainty is adding up. And you cannot accept that. So do you have any control on uncertainty? What does uncertainty mean? The outcome of the future. Do you have any control on the outcome? You don't. That is always an open thing. Till that time comes, till that happens, you won't know. Then what is the first part now? Second part is gone out of your hand. The first part is non-acceptance. So you have to learn to accept the uncertainty. So when you learn to accept that uncertainty, what does it become? It becomes adventure. All those people who go on adventures, they don't know what is going to come. They don't know. They just go out, let's talk about physical adventure. I know my friends in Australia, we just go for trekking. We pick different routes, different forests, different wildlife. We don't even know what's going to be there. We just take a map and we end up. If I start talking about uncertainty, there could be millions. I don't know. I've never been there. But I'm ready. Why I'm ready? Because I've done my preparation. What kind of preparation? I take a water bottle with me. I take a bag with me. I take a torch with me. And I'm going with 4 people along with me. Okay. Yes, we're all ready. We're ready to the extent we can. I may not be ready for nth probability. I may not be ready for a landslide. I may not be ready for a lightning happening. But I'm ready for what I can think. And within my control, I have planned everything. And then I stop caring about the results. And when you do that, the same fear which was negative now becomes your positive aspect as adventure. There is such a fine line between fear and adventure, my dear friends. We just miss it. We just miss it. Fear is non-acceptance of uncertainty. And if you start accepting that uncertainty, but how can you accept that uncertainty? You need to go through your checklist. Okay. I cannot set everything right because I don't know what can happen. But at least I know a couple of things. How do you know that couple of things? Based your past experience, you talk to people, you get from internet, you get as much information, be prepared for that, and then you do that. Then you go on that expedition. Then it is adventure. How many people thrive on adventures? They're not fearful when they start going on a trekking. You can't trek if you're fearful. Adventure. It is your mind frame. What are you changing here, my dear masters? You have not changed anything on the outside. All you have changed is you've changed inside. That inside from fear to adventure. Again, Bhagavad Gita. Everything comes back to Bhagavad Gita. Like every workshop comes back to awareness workshop. Everything comes back to Bhagavad Gita. What does Bhagavad Gita says? You do your karma. Do not worry about the result. And what is karma? Let's take this example of my trekking. Do your karma means do whatever you have to be prepared. You know, take your water bottle, take some nut bars, take a bit of chocolate, it will give you calories or energy when you want. Take a torch if you get stuck in the night. If you want, you know, if you can take something more, a blanket or something, take it, whatever you can. You can't carry a whole tent because you're walking, so that's not acceptable. You can do many more things. You can ask helicopters to fly and get you, but if there's no network signal, so within you, your rational means do everything that is karma. Do your karma to the extent you can. And then do not worry about the outcome. Outcome is uncertain. Bhagavad Gita is non-stop telling us this. Why fear? Why fear? Do your karma and leave the result to the universe. When you start accepting this approach, my dear masters, two things will happen. One, your fear will go. You will be more attached to karma than its outcome. Your focus will be all how I'm doing this work. How well can I do this work? Have I planned it well? Have I executed it well? Your focus will not be on, oh my God, what the results are going to come out. If you are result oriented, you can never do your karma properly because of fear. You have to detach the outcome and the doing part of it, my dear friends. If you have to get rid of your fear, this is the only thing you have to do, is separate those two. That is the rule number one. If you are always thinking about the outcome, you will be a nervous wreck. You can't do any karma. If you are going on a trekking and you're always thinking, oh my God, what will happen if the snake will bite me? You can't pack anything. What can you pack for a snake? You will wear a tight cloth top from bottom, but still snake can come. Or if you can fall in a valley, you can be careful. That's all. It is. So detach outcome. Do all your preparation. We're not saying drop karma. Do karma properly with whatever means, but see Bhagavad Gita everywhere. Third one. There were three main things that I wanted to talk here. What is the third one? Third one is hatred. Such a common negative trait, hatred. So I'm giving you the trait and I'm also telling you how to convert it from negative to positive and how fine line it is. What is hatred? Non-acceptance of a person the way he is, he or she. So let's look at this. The first part is always non-acceptance. But the second part here is you don't like that person the way he is. And how is he? That is how he is. And again, back to awareness. Every person is unique. Don't try to manipulate other person to become like you. Otherwise, this world will be full of robots, not human beings. But problem what is with us? We have expectations for the other person. He has to live according to your expectation. If he does not live according to your expectations, then you cannot accept him. When you cannot accept him, you start hating him. That is hatred. You think for yourself what I have just said. Exactly that's what it is. You cannot accept the person the way he is. So you tell person, I love you, but you know, if you can start wearing green color, it will be nice. I love you, but you know, if you can sleep on the other side of the bed, it will. So it's always conditional loving. We always have conditions even for love. Why? Because going back, if you attended my holistic living workshop, I told clearly, what is unconditional love? Unconditional love is only one thing. Accepting the person exactly the way he or she is and allowing them to be who they are. So when you start accepting with conditions, this is what happens. You cannot accept the person the way he is. So you want them to change. They can't change because that is their integral personality. So you cannot accept them and it's hatred. But if you accept the person unconditionally, then what does hatred become? Hatred becomes love, my dear masters. And how can you learn to accept a person unconditionally? By understanding what is unconditional love. As again repeating, unconditional love is accepting the other person the way he or she is and allowing them to be who they are. You don't try to manipulate other person. You don't start having expectations about others. You can have expectation about how you want to be. You change yourself, it's fine, but you cannot expect others. That will become interference in others' life. And spirituality rule number one, non-interference. You cannot interfere in others' life. Why? Because We all have free will. Every person has the right to live according to his free will, according to his dharma. We all have come with our own divine plans, and we have developed personalities, the right personality that is suitable to carry on our divine plan. So my personality is right for what I'm supposed to do. Your personality is right to achieve your divine plan. So how can I dictate what your personality should be? I don't know your divine plan, let alone your divine plan. I don't know my divine plan itself. So how can I demand that you should be like this? And if you're not like this, I hate you. You look at others and say, oh, he always cheats, I hate him. Doesn't matter. Maybe that's what he has come to learn. You know, he cheats, and from that experience, he has to learn something. Who are you to judge him? Stop judging, because that is where the hatred is coming from. Because you don't understand the divine plan of other person, why he has come with that personality. For a spiritual person, this is much easy to understand. Normal person, it is difficult because they don't understand the divine plan thing. But we know every one of us has come with our purpose. And for that purpose, whatever personality we have come up with is the right personality. So from that, we learn, we get experiences, and we move on. So that is the main story behind this. So today, these three particular negative emotions I wanted to talk to you people. And this is very important. Write it on a piece of paper somewhere and put it in your living room, or whichever room you want where you spend most of your time, my dear masters. It is so important. So today I'm going to stop my discussion here. I have around 20 minutes, and I'm more than happy to take any questions you want. And so please, I'm stopping my recording here. I have recorded the session, but I'm going to stop recording here so that, I don't want to record your question answers. So just